Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Here to talk all things hockey are your hosts, Brad Crisco, Ryan Hanna, and Evan Lobsinger.
I just tweeted from the podcast account, by the way, the new episode is recording right now. And, that was like 5 minutes after the end of the Chicago game. The first reply is from Craig, who says, I'm sure your takes will be very rational and not extreme at all. Does Evan finally jump out the window tonight?
That would make things a lot easier, yes. That would solve a few problems.
It would solve quite a few problems.
Why would Evan jump out the window and miss this opportunity to see Lucas Raymond receive his Hart Trophy this year?
Yeah, you actually can't be jumping out the window. That's the sad part of all of this. Is the real truth is you can't jump out of the window just now that the rebuild is turning around. You've lived through too much.
Some of the greatest martyrs do those things.
Red Wings rebuild.
My time here is done.
Attributed to Steve Yzerman? No, Evan Lobsinger.
Yeah.
But you didn't do anything.
Did I?
We owe an apology. Every season there is a ritual between Red Wings fans and podcast listeners and us. And it's, get hyped, have fun. Yeah, that's all well and good. We participate in that. And then people come in with some massive expectations, with these huge hot takes and predictions. And it does not matter whether or not we think they could happen or will happen. We understand that there's a responsibility to not get people too ahead of themselves, so the disappointment isn't too crushing.
No, absolutely not.
It's been however many years of disappointment. So when people were coming in and who were saying, Mo Seider, Rookie of the Year, and we were saying, hey, probably not. We probably should have qualified it with, because Lucas Raymond is going to win it.
Yeah. Mo Seider is in second place in rookie scoring. And he's not even the leading rookie scorer on the Red Wings.
I feel bad. I feel really bad. We have an interview with Prashanth that we pre-recorded before the Chicago game. And it's like we were talking about like what the Chicago game was going to be. And this was on the heels of two really bad games from the Red Wings. And we were talking about like, and the answer was yes from both of us, but like, should Lucas Raymond stay up, et cetera, et cetera. You had it perfectly during today's game, Brad. Lucas Raymond should never play a game for the Grand Rapids Griffins, period. And that makes me sad for Griffins fans and those living in Grand Rapids, but this kid is special.
It sounds like we're overloading the hype train, but he's legitimately, it's only 6 games, but he's legitimately the front runner for the Calder right now. He leads all rookies in scoring by 2 points. He just came off of, a huge game. He's playing on Detroit's top line, and when Bertuzzi's been able to play, that line has not been juggled this year. Yeah, he has everything going in his favor right now, and some of the other Calder favorites, preseason Calder favorites, have got off to very slow starts. So this is left the door open for A, him to succeed because of who he's playing with, and B, to give a better visualization of how well he's doing because nobody's ahead of him.
Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Still learning how to cope with joy, optimism, and excitement 6 games into this season. I'm Ryan Hanna.
I have no such problem. I'm Brad Crisco.
And I'm Evan.
Because even last episode, we prefaced this by saying this is the hype train for a team that we're expecting to finish 6th or 7th in the division. So please keep that in the context of everything we say.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it. But the 2 games previous to this is that's the temper to all of it, right?
Exactly. We're fresh off the Red Wings. I don't even know if I can say best game of the season because that is actually optimism of itself just by how dominant they were against Columbus. But arguably the Red Wings' best game of the season, which thank God that happened. Otherwise, this would have been a really bleak episode the way the previous 2 games went.
Well, I mean, I think what this episode mostly did was took away quite a bit of time from a discussion on Jeff Blashill.
Oh, we'll get there. Don't worry.
An episode after heaping tons of praise. I'm sure there's some other opinions on this.
Hey, we said old habits die. Some old habits die hard.
And it wasn't going to be a 180 overnight. Anyways, before we get into all that, let's first say a quick little bit about the Jamie Daniels Foundation here. The more we talk about substance use disorder, the faster we can end the stigma and get support to those in need. The Jamie Daniels Foundation is a children's foundation initiative, and it was established in memory of Jamie Daniels and founded by Jamie's father and Red Wings lead announcer Ken Daniels and Jamie's mother Lisa Daniels Goldman. They strive to end the stigma of substance use disorder and provide support to those struggling with the disease or who are in recovery. To learn more and offer your support, visit jamiedanielsfoundation.org. So, in addition, I don't know if you guys know this, but another way to support the Jamie Daniels Foundation, and Ken came on the show, well, he's been on the show a few times, but his first big episode with us, he let us know that he does both cameos and memos for, I believe Memos, the Canadian version. And all the proceeds from that go to the Jamie Daniels Foundation. So if you go to Ken Daniels TV on Instagram, so that's Ken Daniels TV, he has a link in his bio. He has a link tree, and you can access the cameos and the memos. And I've watched them, and he does it like he gives it his all. It's not like those celebrities who are in there who's just like milk it for like 15 seconds and say, "Hey Evan, I think you're cool, and your girlfriend Kat says to have a happy birthday." So that. And that's the end of it.
Hey, happy birthday.
It was well, actually, the rhyming is an extra $50 for most people,
that's true.
But not for Ken. No, Ken gives it. Ken has some fun with it. So that is another way you can support the Jamie Daniels Foundation, and it's also a lot of fun to get a message from Ken. So check that out. Okay, let's start with the game that we just watched. The Red Wings beat Chicago, literally chased the fans out of the United Center. Chicago, terrible start to the year. You absolutely love to see it.
Yeah, they set the NHL record for the longest start to a season without ever leading for a single second.
That is ridiculous.
Oh.
What number do you think Shane Wright will wear?
On Detroit? I don't know.
No, Chicago.
23 is taken, and that's probably a hot topic now.
Well, yeah, no. We just saw the greatest performance by number 23 in the United Center of all time tonight, so...
You and Wobot on Twitter were both lighting it up with that.
Yeah, right before we started recording, non-hockey Twitter got to that tweet, so I am very curious to see my mentions when it's done.
Lucas Raymond, hat trick, plus an assist for 4 points. Dylan Larkin, hat trick. Tyler Bertuzzi, 3 points.
3
assists. Dylan Larkin, a hat trick of assists. What is it? People tried to make Playmaker happen for a while. It was never going to happen. Stop making
It sounds like some awful like EA badge that they would give in game.
I think it literally is an EA badge. I don't even know where to start. Lucas Raymond's hat trick.
Okay. So Lucas Raymond obviously came into the season with very, we'll say, light expectations. We were already having the conversations of what he would do on the top line in Grand Rapids with Valeno and Berggren. And then he had the huge preseason, and we're like, oh, that's amazing. He should probably make the Red Wings. And then he makes the Red Wings, and we're like, all right, we should probably temper our expectations. Because, if he puts up 40 points this year, that's an unbelievable season. Well, he's already 20% of the way there, and we're 6 games in. Almost 20% or whatever. I'm not doing the exact math off the top of my head. It's way too late at night to do that. But he's had a couple quiet games, but for the most part, he has been one of the best players on the team, full stop. Not one of the best young players, not one of the best rookies. Like, he has been a top 3 to 5 player on this team, and nobody can even argue that. And tonight was kind of the pinnacle of it. The night where everybody outside of Detroit noticed it. I saw national beat writers, national reporters in the US and Canada tweeting about it. Big prospect guys pointing out, hey, Lucas Raymond, 4 points, leads all rookies in scoring. Tonight, every star in the NHL has their coming out game.
Mm-hmm.
They have that game where you're like, yeah, not everybody can do that. This is the moment. This is the moment we know that guy's a player. That was tonight for Lucas Raymond.
There needs to be a victory lap from quite a few people. Brad does get to raise his hand here. I'm sorry, Evan. We do have to give. Brad was beating that drum early. I think we all were we were all thrilled about the Lucas Raymond pick. You were on it early. Tony was on it really early as well. And this is this is just pure sheer excitement. It's not like F you, I told you so, because people were hyped about Lucas Raymond for good reason. And I thought this coming out game wasn't going to happen for a year. Just based on the fact that the Red Wings haven't had this in so long. For context, this is the first 4-point night from a 19-year-old or younger on the Detroit Red Wings since Steve Yzerman on December 23rd, 1983. And
even I wasn't born then.
Before that was Gordie Howe on December 17th of 1947. And before that, it was nobody. So Lucas Raymond is in some good company there.
He's in a category with only Gordie Howe and Steve Yzerman. But I want to kind of divert this conversation before we circle back in a sec here, because obviously we're really happy with how the game went tonight, but we saw how the last two games went. So we have to understand that at some point we're going to be getting to prospect profiles this year.
Yeah.
This is why you always have to be super careful when judging young players in top European leagues. Because everybody pointed to Lucas Raymond's production the last 2 years in the SHL and went, well, that's not that great. It's good, but it's not anything special. And he's playing fourth line minutes, 9 minutes a game on a stacked team. He's almost doubling his ice time and average ice time in Detroit than what he was getting at points in Frölunda. And he's taking off with it. So it's always important to keep that into context. So people can say, oh, this really came out of nowhere. No, it didn't. It absolutely did not. This is what people who've been watching Lucas Raymond for 2-3 years knew was going to happen. And I'm not going to sit here and say, I knew that this is what Lucas Raymond would be, but this is what I thought Lucas Raymond would be. This is why I was banging the drum for Lucas Raymond for a year and a half, almost 2 years before the Red Wings actually drafted him.
Why do you keep looking at me?
Because I'm trying to say, I want to see if you're going to react to Brad's getting free time to gloat here.
Yeah, but
he's wearing his stretchy pants. He can do whatever he wants.
Exactly. These are flex jeans. They're life-changing. But anyways,
oh, man.
But so that's why when we get to our prospect profiles this year, understand this, because this is the perfect example of why you have to understand context versus production.
And the point of this, like I said, it's not an I told you so. It's a cause for legitimate excitement.
Yes.
We've said it before. Lucas Raymond is special. This kid is special. There's been a development of his game kind of since he was drafted where he said he wanted to work on his shot. He never had a bad shot. Part of why we were so excited about Lucas Raymond being picked was because he did most everything in the game at least very well. His playmaking and his hockey IQ, I thought, were the best parts of his game. Those were pushing on elite, but his shot was, good and it was placed super well. And he was like, I want to get more strength behind it. Kid scored 3 goals tonight. And he got those pucks in. It was either a snapshot. He was in the right place at the right time. It's really underappreciated how Lucas Raymond is not afraid to get into the dirty areas.
He had the sampler pack of goals.
Yeah,
he had one in tight, digging out a rebound. He had one that was like a slick little fake, and Marc-Andre Fleury's jockstrap was up in the stands. God. And then he had a ridiculous one leg down on one knee down snipe. Like it was great.
And his assist was a beautiful pass to Dylan Larkin across the middle, who had the wraparound, and then Tyler Bertuzzi redirected, quote unquote, the puck.
I'm glad, Evan and Ryan, you guys brought that up. The fact that Lucas Raymond impacted the game on the score sheet in 4 very different ways tonight, because I think we're all in agreement here when anybody asks us what's the number one trait you look for in a hockey player, and we say hockey IQ, smarts, being able to read the play. Because you can have someone who's really, really good at something and they'll be very productive in that one way. Like think of Andreas Athanasiou. He was lethal off the rush, but he didn't really contribute a whole hell of a lot in different ways. But he was really, really good at that one thing and he can make it work. Lucas Raymond doesn't have to have that one thing. He can pick apart teams whatever way he wants, whether that's a smartly timed net front drive where he bangs in a rebound, understanding how to beat a goalie in a one-on-one situation when he undressed Fleury, understanding how, like, the one-timer is just a skill thing. I mean, I think everybody knows when you're in that position, just shoot the damn puck. But he does it, and then, properly timed neutral zone passes, breakout passes, transition passes. Like, those are what make good players great, is they can beat you in whatever way they want. And Raymond had a really, really fantastic example of how he can do that tonight.
Things I noticed. Why does Chicago have Bell Tire as their helmet sponsor?
Oh, yeah. That was I didn't like that. As growing up watching Bell Tire power plays, I'm like, this feels dirty.
That is very strange. So
Yeah.
that's the curse for them.
Yeah.
The other thing I noticed,
I'm sure that's what's gone wrong for Chicago to curse them.
someone on Reddit pointed out that the Hawks took a timeout and the players took the whiteboard from the coaches and threw up their own play.
Yeah.
What is going on?
Jeremy Colton.
Oh.
Yeah. It's also fun to think that Seth Jones at 5-on-5 has been on for 10 goals against.
Dude.
And 0 goals for, and his $9.5 million contract doesn't kick in till next year.
And also it's until 2030.
That's bad. Chicago, that's bad, and it's well-deserved. Okay, we're going to talk about the game in detail rather than just fawning over Raymond very quickly.
No,
but just one more thing.
I'm not done.
Lucas Raymond leads all NHL rookies in both points and goals. Guess who leads in assists?
Mo Seider.
Mo Seider. 1 and 2 in rookie point scoring period, Raymond and Seider respectively. Look, this is what we talked about, the difference these kids make for the Red Wings. We just came off of 2 pretty terrible games over the weekend. There were points in the Chicago game where you were like, ooh, what's going to happen here, Detroit? Like, they weren't rock solid the whole way through. And just like that, they won, like, they turned the game around. And all this to say, like, Larkin Bertuzzi, Raymond, that line it's got to be one of the most electric lines in hockey right now.
Oh, it absolutely is. I don't know the under the hood numbers for that line right now, but I know some of them, not in the context of the rest of the league, but they've got to be a top 10 line right now.
It's just different. I understand that they haven't always played the best teams, so they just lost to Montreal and what was the game?
Pumped Chicago and lost to Calgary.
Yeah. Chicago is not very obviously a pretty bad team in the NHL right now, at least to start the season. But still, you didn't see this kind of conversion before. You didn't see this kind of production before. Bertuzzi being out for all of last year hurt that for sure, but they also didn't have a Lucas Raymond to play with. Like, look how many of their plays have started off with Lucas Raymond kicking it off. Just either so simply and skilled that you thought, yeah, this kid's been in the NHL for years, or with a move where you're like, he shouldn't have been able to do that, and they haven't had a line mate who's been able to do that. Seider, solid defensively, better every game. They put him with DeKeyser today, and we're going to talk about that. You mentioned this before, or as we were watching the game today, Brad. Not enough attention is being paid to the fact that he's being used as power play QB1 right now.
Yeah, they switched Leddy and Seider. Seider is the guy on the power play right now. The power play, which is, dare I say, good.
Yeah.
So it's the Red Wings power play is good. It's being almost entirely propped up by the first power play unit. I don't think the second unit has scored other than that one Zadina rip, but that was while Seider was still on it. And that top power play unit is primarily driven by Larkin, Raymond, and Seider. Bertuzzi's causing the shit that he should, and Sam Gagne's, well, he's there. And it's still a fantastic unit. So that's not nothing. We said going into the season, the most important thing to deem success on this season was Raymond and Seider. That was the number one thing to deem this year a successful year or not. And hey, the Red Wings haven't played the Leafs, the Panthers, Boston yet. They've had a fairly light schedule. They've done well with the light schedule, but we understand it's going to get worse. But God damn, this is exactly what we needed to see for the first 6 games. This is it. Larkin looks like he's back to his self. Bertuzzi has taken another step forward that we weren't fully sure he would, especially coming off the back surgery. So that's a huge relief to see that. Hey, yeah, he's fine. Leddy's been good. Nedeljkovic was great tonight.
Oh, that save.
Yeah.
It was a DeBrincat?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Diving, batted the puck out of the air on the goal line.
Didn't love the way he played that Tyler Johnson goal. Whatever. He made up for it the rest of the game.
I think he was banking on DeKeyser.
Yeah, well, he should have. But anyways, but yeah, he was great. So all the signs of success that we needed to see, we have seen. The Red Wings still have a problem at several parts of the defense. They still have a problem with depth scoring, which tonight, hey, finally got some, because they mostly didn't to this point. So they finally had some depth scoring tonight. And yeah, we know what's coming this year, and they're 3-2-1 right now, so enjoy it. We are overhyping the shit out of the guys that deserve it, because we understand we're probably not going to get to do this for a good chunk of the year. So capitalize while we can.
Yeah, it's if you're thinking this is far too much excitement, come down to earth. Trust me, Red Wings fans know this context, and Red Wings fans, it is okay to be this excited and happy about it.
Because there is still the small chance it might not come down.
Yeah.
Like, this was the year I think we all said before the season, not just us, but like most Red Wings fans said, we expect them to be better. Now, we all assumed it would just be a little bit better, like baby steps. If it's a bigger step than a baby step, that's still possible. Great if it happens. There's still some lineup decisions that need to be addressed to make that happen. But if it happens, good. Like, again, the bottom six is still a problem, but Mitchell Stevens looked fantastic tonight.
Mitchell Stevens is good. I really like that pickup. We thought that might be a sneaky good pickup, and he's been great with a more expanded role in Detroit. Yeah.
Shockingly, I don't hate Carter Rowney.
That's fine.
I thought Carter Rowney was going to be the guy that would be like, please no. This year, so far, so good in the few games he's played.
First Red Wings goal tonight.
Yep. Nemesnikov beat a goalie.
Yeah, scored on a goalie
tonight. That's always a positive sign. And, you know, Adam Ernie looks fine. Like, I think people overestimated what Adam Ernie was because of that hot streak last year. But even in what a more realistic role for him, he looks fine.
I still like what he's doing.
Yeah, he's good. He's like, even the most pessimistic of opinions can't call him a liability.
Yeah.
Which is good for a bottom six forwards. We won't talk about Michael Rasmussen yet. We'll talk about it later when we talk about the problems. But no, they're circling back. There is reason to believe this might not be a fluke. Now, I still fully expect them to miss the playoffs. I still am not betting on it, you know, continuing at the pace that it has. But yeah, right now, with the way Montreal's playing, and understanding Buffalo probably comes back down to earth, Detroit's very much in play for fifth in this division right now. Very much in play.
So Detroit's upcoming schedule, our next episode's on Thursday, and they'll play Washington on Wednesday night. So that episode will recap that game. They have Washington, Florida, Toronto, and then, yeah, those are the three games over the course of our next two episodes. So we'll have a pretty good idea of how Detroit's going to stack up against better teams. But for now...
Well, maybe not with the way the Leafs have been playing lately.
That's actually a really good point. But for now, yeah, the Red Wings beat the Blackhawks 6-3. Raymond 4 points. The top line is buzzing. Like you said, Nemesnikov scored on a goalie. Carter Rowney scored his first Red Wings goal.
Mitchell Stevens 2 assists.
Again, and this is after some pretty poor play. The Red Wings this year, there's something I brought up to Prashanth in the interview, which you'll hear in a bit here. This kind of thing takes time. Success takes time. There's a lot of parts of it. There's a lot of components and developing parts to developing a sustainably successful hockey team. Yeah, you score more goals, you win the game. It's not so simple. It's really hard. It's a grind over an 82-game season. It's really hard with guys coming in and out. It's really hard with young guys, with veterans who are in a completely different situation, with your leaders not really having any playoff experience to speak for. It's difficult. And it's difficult for coaches. It's hard to get those things right, and that takes time. So, yeah, like you said, Brad, I think you nailed it. The indicators for success are there, and I think this entire 3-game stretch is a very beautiful microcosm of that. Garbage games that pissed you off. You're like, why are they playing so poorly? Why are things not going the way they should? Or maybe the results weren't there in one way or another. One game was worse than the other by far, the Montreal game. And look how it can turn on a dime because you now have that talent.
Yeah, because it was like if you flipped the scores in the Calgary and the Vancouver game, that would almost make more sense than how it played out. Because for 30 to 40 minutes of the Calgary game, Detroit was the better team. They did not get outplayed by the Flames. They did for stretches, but it was for the most part a reasonably even game. I probably give the edge to Detroit in terms of what way the ice was tilted. Jacob Markstrom was just in one that night, and that happens. You get goalied every once in a while. It's fine. If the Red Wings played every single game this year like they did against Calgary, that would be like, yeah, okay, yeah, they're a bad team, but whatever. It's fine. They're competitive. The Montreal game was everything about that game was inexcusable, but hey, it happens. If this was the Red Wings of the last few years, they would have got pumped by Montreal and then walked into Chicago and probably got pumped again because that's what they did. So the fact that didn't happen was a positive sign because I think I even alluded to it an episode or two ago where it's like, I'm not going to be overly concerned when the Red Wings lose. It's going to be when they string together losses against bad teams. And that didn't happen, which is, again, different from the previous years.
Yeah.
So, that Montreal game last night was, for as bad as the Red Wings have been the last few years, that might have been the worst game they've played in those few years. They were not competitive at any point, and Montreal was 0-5-0 going into that game with 4 goals scored. They scored more goals in that game against Detroit than they did in their previous 5 games. So everything about that was inexcusable. Whole point being, they bounced back, which is different for this team.
Part. I want to do this now before we talk about some more of the detailed stuff. Raymond or Seider for Calder. Preseason said maybe not. Do you change your bet now? Evan, you go first.
I just read a statistic on Reddit that said something like the past 5 Calder winners have gotten a hat trick in their rookie career.
Certainly helps to score more goals.
That's evidence. That's all I need.
Yeah.
Odds down on Seider. Lucas Raymond up.
I saw some insane odds on Lucas Raymond preseason, and if anybody put money on that, you are looking nice right now.
Yeah. Do I think... Obviously, Raymond's the front runner at the moment, understanding who the Red Wings are, understanding that through injuries and limited playing time, Lucas Raymond's going to play way more hockey this year than he's ever played in his life. So there are going to be stretches where he is going to be very tired and very quiet. That's fine. I mean, like I said, the early season favorites, Zegras, Caulfield, they're not doing a whole hell of a lot right now. The guys who are tied with Mo Seider for second rookie scoring are like Drew O'Connor in Pittsburgh, who call me crazy, probably not sustainable. And I don't even remember who else. So
Lucas Raymond, in order, top 5 rookie point scorer. Lucas Raymond, Moritz Seider, Drew O'Connor, Anton Lundell, Bowen Byram. Guess who has the lowest time on ice per game?
Lucas Raymond.
Drew O'Connor with 11 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Guess who has this? Baited
That was a little bit of a misdirect.
Yeah, that was a baited.
Guess who has the second lowest?
I'm not answering it now.
It's Lucas Raymond with just over 15 minutes. Byram plays over 18 minutes, 18 seconds a game. Lundell, 16 minutes, 18 seconds a game. And Moritz Seider, 6 games into his NHL career, is playing 21 minutes and 52 seconds a game.
It's not crazy to think. It's unlikely, I understand, but it's not crazy to think that Raymond and Seider will both be finalists at this point. Because they don't affect each other. They play different positions. They don't scavenge ice time from each other.
I understand you guys are going to clip this, and at the end of the season, you're going to say this hype was so misplaced, and look how dumb you look now. But as of right now, 6 games in,
Yeah, add it to the database.
Yeah.
The bad takes. Yeah, please.
Yeah, no, we can't. We're good at canceling each other out because our befuddlement on the live stream for the Seider pick is offset by the excitement of the Lucas Raymond pick. So one of them will get nominated. We don't know which one yet because that's how these things work.
Okay. So Lucas Raymond scores a hat trick, has a beautiful assist to make it 4 points. Bertuzzi with 3 point or a goal and 2 assists. Larkin with 3 assists. You mentioned Mitchell Stevens with 2 points. Nemesnikov had obviously the goal. Nedeljkovic with the crazy save in his first Red Wings win. Anything else that we want to highlight from that game, good or bad, before we start getting into the nitty gritty of roster decisions?
Lot of bad, but it's all on Chicago's side, and we're a Red Wings podcast. So
yeah, that would be fun to do, but maybe for a different time when we don't have exciting Red Wings players. Maybe in the old Winged Wheel podcast, we would have time for that. Danny DeKeyser was Moritz Seider's defensive partner tonight.
There's a Stonecutters reference in here.
Somewhere. This was Filip Hronek's second straight game of being healthy scratched. It's an obvious healthy scratch. It's a message being sent by the coach. That much is clear from Blashill right now. As usual, it's not even just Red Wings. Across the league, you're not going to have the coach talk about it publicly a lot. Danny DeKeyser, and that's one thing. And I'm sure we're going to have opinions on that. But the follow-up to it is Danny DeKeyser gets first-line minutes paired with Mo Seider, who is, at this point, Detroit's best defenseman. I'm going to start off by saying I don't disagree with benching players who you need to be better. Filip Hronek is too important for the Detroit Red Wings to be playing as poorly as he is. Plain and simple, full stop, end of story. Would I necessarily bench him? Probably wouldn't have been my first move, but I also don't disagree with the move overall. Like, I agree that it's a tactic that can and should be used by coaches to get their players going. Filip Hronek needs to be better. My first move would have been to get him away from Danny DeKeyser to see how he does. I get it. Danny DeKeyser is not a player who you need to get going. You know what Danny DeKeyser is, and that is an anchor on this team. It's unfortunate. He's just been destroyed by injuries. The guy's had a lot of garbage luck. He's a leader on this team in the room. He has an A on his jersey, but none of that changes the fact that he's an impediment on the ice in terms of success. Danny DeKeyser getting those first line minutes does not make sense. You don't have to punish him. If you don't want to punish him because there's no, good outcome at the end in terms of improving a player or lighting a fire, then don't, fine. But don't give him first line minutes. Because what happened to Moritz Seider's numbers tonight?
It was by far his worst expected goals for and against and Corsi of the season.
Prashanth messaged us after the second period. His expected goals for percentage headed into the game was 60.89 at 5-on-5. After 2 periods, it was 19.35% after playing with DeKeyser. Just to get, you don't even have to know what those numbers mean to know that that's how bad it is. I don't know. I get why they put the A on the jersey. I don't want to say it's unimportant, but it's not a bad thing necessarily that it's not your best players having it. I would prefer a player who should see more ice time to have the letters, but whatever. If they're keeping DeKeyser around as a show of respect and loyalty, it can't last for much longer, right?
No, because there's a lot to unpack here, because I've seen a lot of arguments on Twitter on the subject of I would scratch DeKeyser, not Hronek, because DeKeyser is playing worse. And those people are correct. I've seen a lot of other people retorting, well, benching DeKeyser does nothing. He can't be better. You got to bench Hronek because he can be better. Those people are also correct. It's not a one or the other. My solution here would have been to fire both of them to the press box and bring in Osterley as well.
Yeah.
Osterley's not a terrible player. He's more than capable to fill in. That's why they signed him and brought him in.
Carter Rowney on defense, if you will.
Yeah. Because, yes, Hronek was bad his first few games, and a lot of people were directly blaming that on DeKeyser. And one of the problems on that pairing was they were blowing coverage in their own zone, left, right, and center. And there's a lot of things that lead to other things on the ice. So without remembering each play in detail off the top of my head, I'm sure there was more than a couple where Hronek had to go in the wrong spot to cover for DeKeyser. But there was also times where I know for a fact Hronek was on for a 5-on-5 goal against that DeKeyser was not on the ice for. And it was Hronek who lost the battle in front that led to the goal, and that had nothing to do with DeKeyser. But even digging deeper than that, you watch the shots Hronek's taking and the passes he is making, his head's not there. Those had nothing to do with DeKeyser. When the puck is on Hronek's stick, he makes up his mind what to do with it. And way too often he was firing it to nowhere or to the other team directly. So Hronek, I agree with Blashill, his ass needed to be in the press box. I would have put DeKeyser there too, and I would have brought in Stetcher and Osterley and just made that the bottom pair. And kept Seider and Leddy together and, Stahl and Lindstrom, because those were working. Splitting hairs here, I understand that. But yeah, they are bad for very different reasons, and Red Wings fans need to understand that. Hronek is a player who's a decent skater, great shot, was a good transition player. He has the tools to be good, and he was bad. He has the tools to make great plays, and his brain was deciding to make poor plays. DeKeyser, for the most part, when you watch him, attempts to make the right play, and you can see what he's trying to do. He just can't.
Yeah.
He's never had the skill. That's never been his thing. So his hands and his shot are not going to bail him out of problems. And his skating now is exceptionally poor. And I'm assuming it's because of all the injuries, but his strength on attacking forecheckers and board battles is not there. He's losing almost all of them. So these are two players severely underperforming for entirely different reasons. And the big difference in Hronek going to the press box and not DeKeyser is because Hronek's are fixable. He can get better. DeKeyser at this point can't. Now, that's more argument.
They'll give him a firmware upgrade.
Yeah.
They just forgot to update him. It's like when you check your apps after like 6 months, you're like, oh god,
They forgot to buy the defensive DLC pack.
yeah.
But that's the problem to what Ryan's saying is because DeKeyser's wearing an A, but he's just not an NHL player at this point. He is at best the 8th best defenseman in this organization right now, and there's probably a couple guys in Grand Rapids who can make a case that they're already better. Not that he's ready, but if you brought up Donovan Sabrango right now and threw him in there, I'm betting he would perform better. It's just, it sucks because I like DeKeyser, and people forget there were a bunch of years after the Red Wings signed him where DeKeyser was really good. It's not like he was a bad defenseman like Jonathan Ericsson who just had like a good month. DeKeyser had several years of being a legitimately good top 4 defenseman in the NHL, and now his body's just not able to keep up. And it is what it is. He's not an NHL player anymore. It's an uncomfortable issue, and I'm sure it's even more uncomfortable in the room.
It's not sustainable, right? Like and this is all being.
It's only like the 5th game of the year. Like
6,
there's
yeah.
like 77 more games to go.
Yeah.
It's a grind for anyone who's not suffered major injury.
It's uncomfortable is right, and it's being amplified because DeKeyser's the only one this year. In previous years, it was multiple players like Abdelkader Nielsen, and the year before that it was Abdelkader Nielsen and so and so.
Now he's on an island.
Now he's on an island, so it's unfortunately going to have a bigger laser focus. And he's important to the Red Wings organization. You can tell he's very involved. His dad is well liked within the hockey community as well. They do a lot of good work for the Michigan area. And like you said, Brad, it's not like he's come in on a free ride contract and has just been, a bum. Like that's not DeKeyser. We had higher ambitions for him, and it just seemed to always be derailed by injury. Was his contract way more generous than he probably should have had? Yeah, but that's a Ken Holland thing. That's not a Danny DeKeyser thing. I think, and this is my optimism, which has been rewarded so far this year, so I'm going to continue to be optimistic. I think Blashill and the Red Wings are giving DeKeyser a last hurrah.
He's their Shane Wright insurance.
I think they're going to keep him there. I think they like what he does in the room, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to keep him there for a little while longer. I just don't see them being able to hold out much longer because it's bad.
Yeah. I think I tweeted something to the likes of it, but man, that Tyler Johnson goal tonight was a perfect summary of just Tyler Johnson's like 5'8", 5'9". Danny Kaiser's 6'2", and it was just a battle for the puck on a partial breakaway that the defenseman should win 99 times out of 100. And Tyler
Johnson was in the right position. He was there, and he couldn't win the battle.
And Tyler Johnson scored. It's just, you could tell he was there. He was trying, and he just couldn't. And it sucks.
It's unfortunate, but man, does this not make you feel good as a Red Wings fan to know that that's legitimately the only anchor left on the Red Wings? The Hronek problem is he needs to figure that out, and the outlook on that is not positive in my mind.
The other anchors at the moment have reasonable expectations for improvement.
Yeah, they have tools and they have the time to get better.
Do I think Hronek is as bad as he was the first 4 games? No, but he was an anchor. He was bad. I could say the same thing right now for Michael Rasmussen up front. He's bad, but with Hronek and Rasmussen, I have reasonable expectation for improvements.
I think Michael Rasmussen's offensive output, hey,
had an assist tonight
off a shot where he did the right thing. Just
like this is where the bar is for Michael Rasmussen at this point. He was gifted a freebie chance on a 2-on-1, and he made the right simple play, which was just shoot it, because he's had a bad habit of overthinking those things in the past. But he did the right thing. Carter Rowney banged in the rebound. All credit where credit's due. He made the right play.
In the words of a famous Brad Crisco, in general, on offense, chances seem to die on his stick. Yeah, I agree. His defensive impacts are good. Play him lower in the lineup. Play him in defensive situations. I'm fine with it. Like I don't see the point in. I can be disappointed in Michael Rasmussen if my ambitions for his offensive game were higher, but they're not. So I'm not too concerned.
He's at best at this point, he's a 4th line winger who can maybe help on the PK. But even on the PK, I'm questionable because he seems to lose every puck battle he's in, which is absolutely inexcusable for a man of his size.
He's 22 years old.
Like
You're
you
right,
said,
he should be stronger.
He's been in the
Reasonable.
NHL for 7 years.
Yeah.
So there's no excuse anymore.
This is all under the umbrella of reasonable expectation for improvement.
Okay, I'm going to be that annoying, bubbly rainbows shooting out my eyeballs jerk here again. Is this not great that we're talking about Michael Rasmussen only being really good on defense and not scoring enough for our liking? So he should be like third line wing, fourth line center at best right now. Like that is a massive step up from the Red Wings of past, where we were like, this player got cut from the Swiss second league last year, and now they're on our first line playing with Larkin and Bertuzzi. Like that's the difference we're looking at here with these Red Wings.
Or it was the conversation where it was like, we need Michael Rasmussen to start scoring because there's nobody else.
Right. Yeah. Like he's going to make a difference in the game. I'll start to have passionate feelings about Michael Rasmussen if he's playing as he is right now, if and when Veleno makes his team and seems to be doing better at center or even third line wing, and he's getting more minutes after a little while. Like you said, Evan, he's been here forever, so he is going to naturally play more minutes to start.
He had the third most minutes tonight.
He gets played a lot. He gets
PK, and the Red Wings had a lot of penalties tonight for him to kill.
In his PK, he's good on the penalty kill. And
he's all right on the penalty kill.
He's effective on the penalty kill according to the eye test and underlying numbers. I think his defensive impacts are good.
He's huge. He takes up a lot of space in the defensive zone, which is useful.
There's results.
And his improved skating does allow him to take up more space in the defensive zone, so that is useful. His improved skating has led to nothing offensively, but it is a benefit defensively. You're right.
I have a fun fact if we're done with this.
Oh, yeah, sure. Segue.
Tyler Johnson and Danny DeKeyser weigh the same amount according to the NHL.com website.
That is not accurate. There's no way.
Tyler Johnson's just got legs like Marty St. Louis, like tree trunks.
Danny DeKeyser's 5-6 inches taller than him.
At least.
How much do they weigh?
185.
Danny DeKeyser is not 185. There's no way.
I'd never trust heights or weights on NHL.com.
There was a first.
I was just trying to, stir some conversation and tell you something interesting.
Okay, you pick our next topic, Evan. You guide us.
Have we talked about the Montreal game?
Yeah.
Can we not?
Would you like to?
I gotta level things out,
Yeah, go for it.
That's it.
Oh, that's it.
Begin.
Bad.
Discuss.
Montreal game was bad.
Everything was awful.
Okay.
Nothing was redeeming.
Okay.
They scored a power play goal. That was the one redeeming.
Before getting into the interview with Prashanth here, what better indicator for the difference that Tyler Bertuzzi makes in this offense than that Montreal game? That's it, right? You don't have to go into it much more.
Yeah, that's your opening Pandora's box and direct all comments to him.
Did the Red Wings lose because Tyler Bertuzzi wasn't there? No, they lost because they played like garbage and nothing happened that game.
I did point out tonight, though, that this team is noticeably different with him in the top six.
Man.
It's the domino effect, right? Because when Bertuzzi's not there, Robbie Fabry gets moved up to the first line. Robbie Fabry is not a first-line NHL player. And then when Fabry gets pulled off the second line, Adam Erne gets moved up to the second line. And Adam Erne is not a second-line NHL player. So now you're taking what was one of the best first lines in the NHL and making them subpar. You're taking what was an okay second line and making them even worse. And it's just the domino effect. And the Red Wings, as we talked about before, with Verana's injury, do not have enough depth to lose guys out of the top six right now. And they have exactly 6 NHL caliber top 6 forwards right now. So losing any one of them is a problem, but losing one of them off the first line is a bigger problem. So yeah, it's a problem.
8 more times this year. And if you ever wanted Shane Wright insurance, that's part of it. Keep Danny DeKeyser on the top pair, and those 8 remaining Canadian games. It's 8 more games this year, as it stands right now. But for now, we know the fact that Bertuzzi, Larkin, Raymond is genuinely just an absolutely unreal first line, and all 3 of those players above point per game right now. And especially if you consider Larkin's output last year, where everyone's like, what's happening to his production? Was that one-off year a fluke? It's like, no. You stick him with players who can produce, players who can play, who can convert and feed him the puck. It's a different Larkin. It's a different Bertuzzi. And it's brand new Lucas Raymond. My God.
Maybe Bertuzzi just doesn't like working weekends because the games in Canada have been on the weekend so far.
Great way to get around it.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah. All right. We're going to jump into a conversation I had with Prashanth Iyer, which was recorded before the Chicago game. So if things seem a little relaxed and maybe even a little bit hesitant about the upcoming Chicago game, you'll know that was before all of this happened. But nevertheless, a lot of good conversation with Prashanth about not just Red Wings hockey, but also Wings money on the board as well. So enjoy that interview now. Prashanth Iyer, for the first time on the Winged Wheel podcast, as a father, welcome and congratulations.
Thank you very much. Sorry the little guy can't make an appearance today. He is currently in nap mode, and I'm not going to disturb that.
Yeah, we could not possibly afford his appearance fee.
Yeah, it would be far too many, money or shows items from Rohan. I don't think he could afford any of that if he was going to sponsor you guys. So.
No. All right, folks. We're joined, of course, by Prashanth Iyer. You've seen him from his work with the Athletic Detroit, Winging in Motown, formerly of Wings for Breakfast with Max Bultman. Can't speak today. And a now father. So hopefully, mom and baby are doing well.
Yeah, everybody's doing well, and getting as much sleep as one can humanly get in the first couple of weeks.
So let's get right into it, Prashanth, because as I understand, in addition to a baby, there's a brisket waiting that I'm holding you up from. So
there is, but don't worry, it is off the grill. There is nothing that we have to worry about.
Perfect. So the Detroit Red Wings are now firmly started their season, and we already have a few storylines developing. We were just laughing because I was telling you I wasn't able to watch too closely in real time this weekend because of a wedding, and this was probably their worst stretch of games so far. We're recording before the Chicago game tonight. So what's your take on how the Wings season has evolved?
I mean, even though we're recording ahead of the Chicago game, if the Chicago games go anything like the Chicago games did last year, we can safely say that this is a terrible stretch of hockey games. But yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde. You saw the first couple of games where they came out really nicely against Tampa. They really held their own. They pushed the Cup champs, to overtime in that game, and probably should have won that game. Blew 3 different 3-goal leads, but at times looked really dangerous. And then they come back and they play a really solid game against Columbus. They play a solid game against Vancouver. And then the wheels sort of fall off the last couple of games here, and we'll see what happens in Chicago. But I think you're seeing steps forward from this team, but you're also seeing a lot of those bad habits still being present from last year. And really the ability to sustain that consistent, elite level play that they showed in the first couple of games is what separates the good teams from the teams that are still contending to get there.
I have a theory, and it's not a genuinely unique one, but even when teams become good, so far, or insofar as they have good players, it takes them a while to develop that chemistry, their systems in a way that's sustainable. And like you mentioned, where they can protect leads and get out in the lead and not crumble once they fall behind. From your perspective, how much credence would you lend to that? And do you think there's a little bit of that going on right now with Detroit?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. Like, we think back to the veteran-laden teams that the Wings had in sort of the earlier part of this millennium where, it would seem like things weren't going well and they knew they could fall back on their experience, they could fall back on their chemistry, and they knew that they could right the ship, they could do what they needed to do to come back. I mean, we think back to the 2002 Stanley Cup playoffs first round. The Wings lose the first 2 games to Vancouver, and Yzerman gets on the plane and says, "We're not going to lose another game." And then they go on and they win 4 straight, and they go on like that. Like, that's that kind of experience that those really sort of veteran-laden teams that have been there, done that, have, that this Wings team doesn't. I mean, your leader of this team is Dylan Larkin, and he's 25 years old, and he's not really been a part of those teams and doesn't have that experience. And so there's not really a lot to fall back on. Like, yes, they brought in guys who have gone on deep playoff runs like Nick Leddy and Mark Stahl. Thomas Greiss has been on a deep playoff run. Alex Nedeljkovic, obviously last season. But no one's really, there to be that major presence where I think the Wings can fall back on it. And when they hit tough stretches, it's sort of hard to right the ship. And you know, I'll give you a great example. If you look back at the 07-08 team that was so dominant, wins the Stanley Cup that year, a lot of people forget they had a 1-8-2 stretch in March of that season. But you were never worried about that team. That was a team that was always going to come back and figure it out. And I think that's really the difference. So I do think, you know, there's some credence to your theory there that this is a team that's simply still finding out ways to win and finding out how to sort of sustain that success.
All right, let's get the two easiest topics out of the way here. Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider and the starts to their professional careers in Detroit. I think there's more of a question here about Lucas Raymond and if there's a decision to be made still. I'm not sure that actually applies anymore, but what do you make of their starts and your thoughts about them going forward?
I mean, not only have they had great starts, you could argue that Lucas Raymond's probably been the second best forward for the Wings behind, you know, Calder Bertuzzi. He's right there with Dylan Larkin. That entire top line has been tremendous. And then Moritz Seider's probably been Detroit's best defenseman. So, you know, I don't really think there's a decision to be made here. It's really, yes, they're probably going to be with the team the entire season. And now it's, can they really legitimately contend for the Calder? I mean, you know, historically, defensemen have to put up a lot of points in order to be able to contend for the Calder, and Moritz Seider's well on his way there with 4 points already. You know, Lucas Raymond's basically reinvigorated the Red Wings power play, and now all of a sudden makes it look competent with all of the passes breaking down the opposition's penalty kill, and so he's been a tremendous add. So there's really no decision, in my opinion, here. I think you know, the question of burning their entry-level contracts, it needs to happen there. And honestly, you may be able to get them to a point where you can negotiate sooner, like we've seen, you know, teams do recently, like Vancouver with Quinn Hughes and, you know, Colorado with Cale Makar, and being able to get sort of those deals in place earlier may end up helping you save some money down the road. So to me, there's no question. I think you gotta keep them both up, and because they're arguably some of Detroit's 5 best players.
So on the thread of good players, we have quite a few conversations about the way the season's unfolding. Me, you, Max, and Brad, and I'm sure the ghost of Evans is in there somewhere. There have been a few players that have come up where we've almost said they've been quietly good. Who strikes you as the most impressive so far that you think maybe is not getting enough attention from Red Wings fans?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned it prior to the Montreal game or during the Montreal game, of course, obviously before the wheels fell off. But I think a guy that's been quietly surprising is Gustav Lindstrom. You know, me personally, I've never been particularly high on his game. I never thought he was a guy that would really stick in the NHL. He sort of struggled going back and forth between the Allsvenskan and the SHL and was having trouble sort of sticking. But I think this season, it's obviously early. We've only seen a handful of games now, but he's playing with a lot more poise, a lot more patience. He's taking his time to make plays. I don't know if he's been helped out, you know, defensively by being able to play with Mark Stahl a little bit, and if that's helped him a lot with Stahl being sort of a veteran presence there for him. But you know, besides that, I think he's a guy that I think has been the most noticeably improved for me, and a guy that I think warrants a little bit more attention as the season continues.
Now, on the flip side of things, we have a situation where before the season we said if it's going to be Hronek to DeKeyser, that might be some trouble. Start of the season, very obviously both of those players struggling massively, and we are now heading into the second straight game of one of them being healthy scratched, and it's not Danny DeKeyser, it's Filip Hronek. So there's layers to this because, you know, Hronek's not been good, but do you think that is the right call considering DeKeyser is his partner? What's the message being sent here? How do you go from the most minutes to no minutes?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a crazy situation, right? I mean, we're talking about a guy who led the Red Wings in minutes last year, was top 15 in the league in minutes played per game last year, and was averaging about 24 minutes a night prior to being scratched these past 2 games. And so, you know, it's a very interesting swing of the pendulum. I think if you look at Blashill's track record historically, he's always come down tougher on his younger players. He holds them to higher expectations. We've seen this happen with scratches of Andreas Athanasiou, scratches of Anthony Mantha all the way through last season. Anthony Mantha was getting scratched. We saw him take Dylan Larkin and Anthony Mantha off the power play last season as to sort of send a message when this was a power play that was struggling mightily. And so that's sort of been Blashill's method of getting through to the younger guys and sort of showing them that he's holding them to a higher standard. I mean, let's be clear here. If you're asking me who's been a bigger issue between DeKeyser and Hronek, I think Danny DeKeyser is clearly on his last legs here. I think, he's sort of struggled to bounce back from this injury. He doesn't seem to be skating the same way. It feels a little bit reminiscent of, Jonathan Ericsson coming back from the hip injury where, he looked good previously, and then all of a sudden the mobility's not there, and now you're seeing a lot of issues manifest. I think it's clear that DeKeyser's been the bigger problem, but if you're looking at it through the lens of what Blashill thinks, who's the guy that I can actually motivate to do better, you're more likely to get more out of Filip Hronek, a guy who should arguably be your most talented defenseman, than you are by scratching Danny DeKeyser. That doesn't really send any sort of message, and you're not going to get any sort of better play. From my opinion, I personally would have scratched Danny DeKeyser because at the end of the day, if you are a hockey team and you want to win games, and I think you should put your best lineup in there. Jordan Oesterle is a guy who probably deserves to draw in here at some point, but I can see why Blashill made the decision to scratch Filip Hronek of that pairing based on sort of his track record.
Now, moving down the lineup, a player who has a key focus on him is Filip Zadina. And for better or worse, there's a somehow even more keen focus because Detroit fans are looking at, Lucas Raymond coming in and shining right away and Moritz Seider coming in and shining right away. And there's a little bit of impatience being put forward. What is your overall analysis on whether this is a make or break season for Filip Zadina, his progress so far as a prospect, and whether or not it's being clouded by judgment of, Quinn Hughes or other players around him?
Yeah, I mean, inevitably he always comes back to that Quinn Hughes conversation, and then there's the Brady Kachucks, and there's the Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and all of those sort of pieces there that always make this conversation very interesting with Zadina. But I think at the end of the day, we sort of have to remember this guy's 21 years old, really hitting his third full season, but also his first season where he's squarely in the top six. His first season where he's squarely playing with guys that can make him better, playing with Pius Suter and playing with Robbie Fabry, playing, heavy power play minutes. I think this is really the first opportunity he's been given to really succeed with very talented line mates compared to, playing with the Franz Nielsen's, the Adam Ernies, and so on and so forth in the past. Having Sam Gagne be a centerman, as good as Gagne is, he's not the offensive player that can really unlock the most out of Filip Zadina. And so I think you sort of have to be patient. I think he's looked a lot better at 5-on-5. I think he's starting to develop some chemistry with Pius Suter. You're seeing some sort of nifty plays being made there. Even in this Montreal loss that was abysmal, I thought Zadina generated a number of great chances, both at 5-on-5 and on the power play. So I think patience is the most important thing. You have to remember he entered the league younger than most Red Wings prospects do. He's still only 21. He's still growing, and this is really his first time where he's been given that bigger role and now has a lot of expectations on him.
All right, before we wrap up here, let's get to the real fun part of all this. So we were obviously game planning all offseason as to ways we can support the Jamie Daniels Foundation through various initiatives, and we wanted something that was maybe a little bit more season-long and active throughout the year. So what we came up with, of course, was Wings Money on the Board. So let's chat with the listeners a little bit about what that initiative is and what they can do to kind of have fun watching the Red Wings and donate to a great cause.
Yeah, I mean, you guys put together a tremendous website to host all of this. And, obviously, like you said, you and I have been talking about this all summer. So basically, Money on the Board is simply that. You come up with a pledge, whether it's on a specific statistic you'd like to see, a specific output from a player. So, number of goals that Lucas Raymond scores this season, or number of hits that Moritz Seider throws this season, or number of saves that Alex Nedeljkovic makes this season. And you simply assign a dollar value to that pledge. I want to pledge 10 cents for every Moritz Seider hit. I want to pledge $1 for every Lucas Raymond goal. I want to pledge, a quarter for every save Alex Nedeljkovic makes. And at the end of the year, we tally all of that up. And we reach back out to you with, hey, this is the final amount. And at the end of the year, you make that pledge and you make the donation to the Jamie Daniels Foundation. And there's a lot of cool prizes and things that I think you've been working out, Ryan, to sort of incentivize and make this a fun, an interactive opportunity for people to really give back at a time of need. I mean, I think focusing in on the mission of the Jamie Daniels Foundation, making sure that we help those suffering from substance use disorder, make sure they have access to the proper resources they're not taking advantage of. They know, sort of where they can turn to, because in this COVID-19 pandemic, that's only been increasing, exponentially in the number of sort of opioid related hospitalizations and things of that nature, emergence of counterfeit medications and such. It's becoming an even bigger problem than it already was. And that's why now more than ever, making sure we get money to the Jamie Daniels Foundation so they can do what they do best is going to be really key. And so this is kind of a neat opportunity for everyone to participate, similar to last year with the Power Play donation, where I think we were able to pull together, more than $15,000. I'd like to see us do better than that this year.
Yeah, definitely. So that's Wings Money on the Board. You can find all the details that Prashanth just told you about and more if you go to wingedwheelpodcast.com/blog. There's also going to be all over Twitter. Put in the description of this episode. You'll see the post for it. In addition to what Prashanth mentioned, we're also going to be doing one-off games for additional prizes and things like that. So the first one of those will be coming very soon. We've been chatting with Ken and we're going to get some fun prizes out there for everyone. So hashtag Wings MOTB. Be sure to use that on Twitter. And we'll be in touch with you if you sign up for pledges as to what to do next. But for now, Prashanth, thank you so much for jumping on the show. I'm sure we're going to be doing it again soon. And all the best to you, Mom, and the baby and the brisket.
Thank you.
And that was our conversation with Prashanth Iyer. So I'm very happy that we talked about things that were more overarching, lest him and I both not look silly, but it's a big juxtaposition between pregame and postgame. But no, genuinely, I always appreciate Prashanth coming on. Congratulations to him again on becoming a father. I love the picture of him. It was very reminiscent of you when you had Mika and Hank of watching the game with the baby in hand.
Yeah. He's now aware that's the lucky position, and now he has to watch every game like that with his son.
Yeah. One more thing I want to talk about very, very quickly here. When Hronek comes back, this team, if they're doing what they're doing now and injuries haven't, ruined one thing or another, this team is going to do some damage across more than just that top line. I don't know where he's going to fit in.
He's Zadina. Remember the chemistry they had to finish last year?
So, okay, let's say it's Zadina Verona with Seider in the middle, or maybe Fabry, depending on how they're playing.
I don't care which one it's not.
So either Seider or Fabry on the third line. Maybe Veleno's up by then.
Honestly, conspiracy theory. Verona's going to be right back around the trade deadline, and Fabry's on an expiring contract.
Oh,
this may sort itself out.
Yeah, the Red Wings have a glut of wingers, right? We've known this for a long time. Glut, relatively speaking. They're not winning the cup, but still. This team has the potential to do some damage. So, anyways, Lucas Raymond for Calder. Moritz Seider also for Calder. Hell, Alex Nedeljkovic for Calder. Evan, you for Calder.
Red Wings were the first team to win the Calder Trophy. Did you know that?
Sorry,
name him.
It's Carl Voss.
Oh. Thank you for having that on deck.
In 1932.
Laptopped Evan is an evolution on this show that I never thought we'd see.
My brain is in the computer. I don't actually use it inside my body.
The files are in the computer?
Yes.
He's Lucy.
Lucy?
I hope someone got that. For the 3 people who got that joke listening, that was a top quality joke.
I do not get it.
Have you seen the movie? It stars Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, I definitely did not see that movie.
It's the whole premise is she unlocks more than 10% of her brain.
Oh, I've not. I know the movie you're talking about. I've not seen it.
Spoilers ahead. One of the dumbest goddamn movies I've ever seen. So nobody
that
should
wasn't
watch
a spoiler.
Yeah. But the end of the movie, when she achieves 100%, she literally, and this is going to sound like a figure of speech, so I have to use the word literally here, turns into a USB stick.
Okay, we're going to jump into overtime.
That's too much on a Sunday night.
I don't know how, but that was offensive. Overtime on this episode of the Winged Wheel podcast is Brought to you by our Patreon supporters. Obviously, on games like this, the comments go insane. So obviously, we have the Reddit thread, we have Patreon. I don't know how much we'll be able to get to today. That's just the reality of it.
We're going to wing it. No pun intended.
Patrons are amazing people, and they're actually the reason the universe came together to give us both Mo Seider and Lucas Raymond. So patreon.com/wingedwheelpodcast. Damn it. If you want to support and also be part of that cosmic justice for Detroit. Sean Stephen Cook says, I just wanted to say that Stevens appears to give it his all on every shift, and that deserves a lot of love. And he got that love this game. Matt S. says, I think he posted this. Oh, no, he edited it. What a game. A great bounce back win by the Wings, especially after 2 rough losses. The top line dominates again. Lucas Raymond had the Hattie. He has Fleury's number. Now has 4 goals, 1 in the preseason on the reigning Jennings/Vezina trophy winner. So much for us having any doubt that Raymond would not stay up with the Wings. At the end of the Bally broadcast, the ticker said Lucas Raymond becomes just the 3rd Wings teenager with 4 points in a game, right? As we mentioned earlier. Side note, Bertuzzi's goal was number 1 in the NHL goals of the week last week. Grace's save was number 8, and Ned's save tonight might be number 1. Okay, Lucas Raymond, over or under 20 goals?
What's he at right now?
4. I'm going to go over. Screw it.
Yeah, I think I'm taking the over.
Oh, Mo Seider over under 60 points. I'm going to go under here.
Smash the under on that one.
Yeah.
If he gets over 60 points, like, we're all aware he's winning the Norris on top of the Calder, right?
Yeah. Maybe the Hart. CJ Sully says, oh, I like this. Bills suck. I don't know why, it's just the attack on Brad, but sure.
They're on a bye week, man.
Also, what's the cheese bag story? One of our patrons and friends of the podcast, Joseph, basically said stay fresh cheese bags because it's a meme he found online, and it's now been adopted and spread through the Dub Dub Club. Ben Fincham says, let's hear your best minor/beer league hockey story. I'll see myself out.
The fact that I'm still alive after my first 2 in a year and X months.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm alive somehow.
I don't know. Best story? Brad, your story has to be limited to 20 seconds.
No, my story right now is going to be in the future. I'm just going to send you the link to the stats page for my beer league this season right now, just to watch your reaction.
Your beer league has a stats page?
Yeah. It's the A division. They keep track of that stuff.
You're lucky I like Clayton.
Yeah. Yeah. My stats in the beer league right now are here. My stats in my actual league are like here right now. So it's a nice little offset.
I once got chirped by a backup goalie on a bench, and I reminded him that he was a backup goalie. This isn't my favorite story. It's just one that always stands out. I had to chirp back and forth with the backup goalie, and I was pretty mean with it, but he shut up for the rest of the series.
Oh, I have a fun one. If we're going to just go small stories from like 2 weeks ago, we were playing one of those beer league teams that's like all kids between like the ages of 18 and 20, and they take it way too seriously and they try really hard. For reference, our beer league team is mostly guys around my age. We have a few young guys, and we take it the exact opposite of seriously. It was Thanksgiving Day. We had like 8 players on the bench, and like they were running like 3 lines, and we were still beating them, and like they were like getting chippy and mouthy and like whacking us, and we're like, guys, we're not trying, calm down. And they had a kid with a tinted visor, and someone sent him a breakaway pass and he just missed it. And I said, if you had a normal visor on, you would have been able to see that pass. And he looked at me like he wanted to say something, and he had nothing. And I'm just like, that wasn't even that good of a chirp, but his reaction was satisfying.
Flack Shack says, with everything that's happened to Evander Kane, do you think he'll be in season 2 of Squid Games?
He's a prime candidate.
Oh, no.
Michael Berry, do you think it's Danny DeKeyser's last year in a Wings uniform? No, because he'll be kept on in a coaching capacity.
It better be. And that's coming from someone who really loves Danny DeKeyser.
Sean Chavarella says, hey, do you think Smith should get more ice time? I don't know about you, but I smile every time he's out there and cringe when I see Ras. No, the Smith deployment is fair. Him and Rowney are subbing in for 13th forward. They're getting 7 minutes a night when they play. That's all it needs to be.
Whichever one of them looks more competent any given night, fine. Because there was a play in the Montreal game that I think summed up why Giovanni Smith can never be more than a 4th line forward. Is he was given a breakaway pass, and based on the way the defensemen were chasing him and the angle of everything, it was essentially a 3-person race for that breakaway, and Giovanni Smith comfortably finished third, and he was not up against any burners.
Lars, the prophet of the towering behemoth, says, hello, Sweetophiles. Any Man U fans out there? No? Well, I guess you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reasons to stay silent. You'll never walk alone. Liverpool beat Man United 5-0 today, which is like the Red Wings beating Chicago 6-3 at the United Center. They beat him in Manchester.
Okay.
Jonathan.
I understand the analogy.
Yeah. Lekaramaki says, is pretty much on fire in the U20s, 15 games and 25 points. Blashill hasn't reinvented himself, has he? Will there be a point during the season where we play the 6 best defenders?
Well, remember last episode I said he's changed about 75% of who he is at the coach. Well, that 25% is still mainly lineup decisions and deployments. So, work in progress.
Josh Brink says the edibles hit, so I forgot what I was going to say. So, hey. Cody Stark says, what's the deal with Pius Suter? Yeah, you know what? Suter's been quiet, to put it gently, for a lot of it. He's not been as impressive as I would have liked to have seen to start the season. And I don't think it's the end of the world, but it's worth noting.
He has not been a liability. He has not looked like a drag on his line mates. But yeah, he hasn't really been dynamic in any sense, which I was kind of hoping for.
Confucius says, I wrote this before Saturday's game. Hronek has been pretty bad. He makes the most obvious passes and sometimes dangerous ones to his teammates. He's way overrated. Zadina has not been impressive at all this season. Are we leaning towards bust?
I have been perfectly fine with Zadina this season. It's unfortunately a lot of last season where the production's not where it should be, but he makes a lot of good plays and generates a lot of chances, and unfortunately finishing still seems to be a bit of an issue for him, outside of that one rocket he had on the power play. But yeah, I think, again, he's not playing with the strongest line mates for an NHL second line, but he's been good. Unfortunately, yeah, we might start looking at the realization of, okay, Zadina's not going to live up to a top 10 pick, but he still looks like a very good middle six forward.
Bill Nye the Thigh Guy says, hey, Dub boys, do you think the Montreal fans are coming back down to earth? Montreal fans have not been down to earth since the inception of that team. That is the kind of like the hallmark of being a Montreal fan. You are never expected to be grounded in reality, for better or worse.
When are we going to start the conspiracy theory?
You need to be way more specific.
We all know where this upcoming draft is, right?
Yeah. Don't do that.
I'm just saying.
Stoked for the meetup and meeting you guys. Cheers. George P. Burdell says, it seems that Brad didn't fall for my trap last week of reminding everyone Luke Glendening is good at faceoffs. Even though we lost to Calgary and the Habs, at least with Seider and Raymond getting high time on ice, we've got something else for broadcasters to talk about besides Glenny. That alone is an improvement for the team compared to last year. Mark Burnham says, down goes Brown, dropped a neat tidbit. The last time Seattle and Montreal met was the 1919 Stanley Cup final, which was suspended in a 2-2 tie prior to the deciding game due to the Spanish flu. So this Tuesday's game in Seattle could decide the 1919 Stanley Cup. How hilarious would it be if Seattle broke out the cup and skated it as if they'd won? It'd be sacrilege, but hysterical.
They should raise a banner. And also, it's some kind of, I don't even know what to call it. Their last game was in 1919. That ended because of a pandemic, and they're picking up in the middle of another pandemic. Like, that's crazy, right?
I'm sure Nashville will raise a banner for this moment.
Yeah. Dave Fanto says, hey, my friends and I have an ongoing bet every season in which we pick a team before the regular season, and whoever goes furthest in the playoffs wins the jersey of their team picked. Top 3 projected Stanley Cup winners are discouraged from picking. This season, the teams are Kraken, Rangers, Penguins, Boston, Oilers, Wild, and Panthers. What are your 2 early predictions for which teams will finish on top?
Right now, out of that list, I am smashing Florida and Edmonton.
Yeah, Florida and Edmonton just because of their paths. Edmonton because of their path forward.
Edmonton's in a horrible division, and Connor McDavid is on pace for literally 200 points right now. Their horrific defense doesn't even matter because they're scoring so goddamn much. In Florida, to steal Evan's term, it looks like an absolute wagon so far. So,
Chad Hiersack says, is there a possible conflict of interest with the Sabres neck and spine doctor since he is or has been in legal issues with the company he consulted with in developing the artificial discs, Nuvasive Inc.?
Interesting. I did not know that. That could actually be a problem.
He sent us a link, so why don't we actually take the time to read through it before?
Yeah, we'll put a pin in that. Send it to me before next episode.
Yeah. That's got to figure itself out, man. Like, you cannot have Eichel on the sidelines not playing it's so bad.
Yeah.
Babe Landeskog says, commenting before the game because my partner and I will be at the United Center. Hey, that's amazing to hear. This is their first live NHL game. Every regular season game I've seen the Wings versus Hawks. The Wings won. Hopefully that doesn't jinx things. You did not jinx anything.
The GoFundMe to send you to every Wings Hawks game is getting started.
Frank the Tank says, best guess as to what scandalous photo DeKeyser has in the higher ups. It's a veteran loyalty thing. Jeff Blashill's third period playbook says this page has intentionally been left blank. Herpes Crypto. I intentionally mispronounced that. I've missed 2 drafts this year because of the stupid night shift. My second team auto-drafted Evander Kane, so I'm kind of annoyed. Who would be the worst person auto-drafted in history? Oh. Worst auto-drafted player. It has to be a player who just got immediately hurt first game or something stupid
Nikita
like that.
Kucherov the last 2 years.
Yeah, rough.
Because that's like an auto-draft in the first round for a dude who didn't play last year and is probably going to miss most of this season.
Jake Kiefer says, prospect projection question. If you were Yzerman and the league allowed you to extend Seider and Raymond right now, contracts starting at the end of the ELC, 8 years times 7.5 mil each, would you?
Probably.
I think you can get Seider cheaper than that.
I don't think. Have you seen the defense market lately, Ryan? I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying.
I'd risk it by waiting just to see. And also, Yzerman does not pay full price.
So I was actually reading an article.
Yzerman is Evan shopping for furniture.
Yep.
You only get the best furniture, but by God, you're getting 20 to 40% off.
Yep.
So I was reading an article that kind of swayed me on something that you should almost always bridge deal out of ELC because it avoids that situation like Colorado had with Landeskog where do you want to give a guy 8 years as he's becoming a UFA at 28 because he's still probably a very important part of your team and a good player at that point, and ideally you're still in your Stanley Cup window, but you don't want to pay someone until they're 36. So you sign them out of their ELC when they're 22, 23 years old, give them like a 2-year bridge deal, so now you're paying them at 25, and now you're paying them till they're 32, 33. So you're literally getting all of their good years, and you don't have to worry about those final 4 or 5 garbage years. So yeah, sure, you probably overpay them a bit on their second contract, but you'd rather overpay a guy by a couple mil a year versus having to pay a guy $9 million when he's 37.
Arjun Shankar says Ernie has started making at least one very cool move per game this season, and I'm a fan. Did the BlackhawksLose.com says, yes, thanks to hashtag forehand Luke, a.k.a. Luke Calderus Raymond. Luke Calderus Raymond is good. I have to give him that one. Ryan Dodd says, howdy ho, Junior Rangers. Random question. Do you listen to other hockey pods such as Chicklets? And if the Wings went on a Cinderella story playoff rush, what's your imaginary predictions for the point/goal and assist leader? Hasta luego. I don't listen to anything anymore because my commute has been destroyed, so I barely have time to listen to this to edit it.
I do a lot of driving, so I listen to a lot of podcasts. Not too many niche ones, all the ones you would think, 32 Thoughts, most of the athletic hockey show iterations that they release weekly, but not all. There's not enough time for that. They release like one a day. But I like the ones with Max and Corey, with Mac and Doe. Custance and Gentiles is good. Puck Soup's pretty good time filler. Yeah, that's about it.
Zach McCann, a driving range superstar, says, long time no post. It's been a whirlwind, but I left law school, found a new job, and has been in a healthy relationship that's going to lead to a ring next year. Oh, hell yeah. Zach, that's amazing news. All this nice stuff, and yet the fact that we still played the guys in the first pair keeps me up at night. Taking my girlfriend to her first Hawks Wings game tonight, and I want to get her jersey so we can match, but don't know who to get. Oh.
It's got to be Raymond now.
You know the answer.
That is not up for debate anymore.
Or one of you gets Raymond, one of you gets Seider. Joe McKenney, PGA, says, new patron here. Very happy to support you guys. Joe, welcome to the Dub Dub Club. Says, the more I listen, the more I realize Evan and I are the same person. Misanthropic, both play golf, both listen to metal, obviously Wings fans, and generally don't give a damn about how others perceive our life decisions. Example, I want a hot tub, screw you all. Still, I hate him because, the whole misanthropy thing, damn humans. Anyways, my question is, it's still very early in their careers, but has either Seider or Raymond reminded you of a particular wing from the past? I get a bit of a Zeke vibe from Raymond, maybe just hopeful, maybe misguided, you tell me.
Stylistically, no, not really. Nobody jumps to mind in terms of the way they play versus, what they are. Get a bit of Lidstrom vibes from Seider. Not that he's the same player, but just their calm demeanor on the ice and that vibe that they're always in control.
But it extends so far as that because they're still very different places.
Yeah. In terms of the toolkit they bring to the ice, they are not the same player, but just that the vibe check.
Poyo says, what are your thoughts on Dylan Larkin's media availability when asked about the Jamie Benn cross-check? You know what? I believe Larkin when he says he just wants to move on from it. He's going to keep it restrained because he knows he's not going to get anything else from the league. Player safety is not going to give him anything. There's no point.
You see the George Peros interview?
God.
Something about if we called every cross-check or boarding, we'd be too busy or what? It's something
No,
ridiculous.
if they did supplemental discipline for every boarding minor, and I'm like, George, they didn't call it.
Yeah, that's what the most ridiculous part of the whole thing was.
I think part of the story here is that the Department of Player Safety is the figurehead and the whipping boy, but really the head of refereeing needs to be addressed here too. But I have no sympathy for either.
Yeah, boo-hoo.
Not about to cry for you.
Yeah, remember that cross-checking crackdown?
Yeah, real funny. Stevie Langerman says, hey gents, I did the dumbest thing ever. I really wanted to go to the Kraken home opener last night and I took the risk on some Craigslist tickets. Of course it was a scam. Oh, that's terrible. Sorry to hear, Stevie. Help me feel better by telling a story in which you did the dumbest thing ever and felt like a total idiot. You guys rock as always. Oh, the list is too long. I literally block them out of my mind. The next...
You need to re-ask this question when it's 1 a.m. and I'm just laying in bed and I can't fall asleep. Yeah. That's when I remember all of them.
100%. I do a lot of dumb shit. Remember our interview with Ricard Gronberg? Mm-hmm. I was a lazy piece of shit that morning. I was just being so lazy.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, could not get out the door on time. So I was running late and could not for that interview, obviously, where Ricard was calling in from Sweden. Sped to your house because this was when we were still recording at your place. Got my only speeding ticket. Nailed for 9 kilometers an hour over the speed limit.
Here's $25.
Didn't fight it because I'm also an idiot. Has stayed on my record and has just boned my insurance for years. It's coming off in 2 weeks and I cannot wait.
Oh, the rates are fantastic. I've been a 10-star driver for 3 years now, and that rate when you hit it is life-changing.
Dungeon Master of Puppets says, we've all been had, boys. The Department of Player Safety made us think they're calling more penalties for cross-checking when really they're just cracking down on refs calling cross-checks. Vaxxed and Waxed for the Squid Game says, sometimes benching Hronek is the right decision. It's Savoy decision-making that will move this team forward. I've Miro Shevchenko up there with mediocrity. Aussie for Hall of Fame, stay fresh cheese bags. That was an excellent effort.
That wordplay was really coolly.
Can you believe this guy?
I am ready for bed.
I'm disappointed that was actually good. Lindstrom says Seth Jones sucks so much. Also, we won the 2020 draft lottery. The NHL Department of Player Safety is a joke, and players need Pee-wee stop signs on their jerseys, apparently. Says Nemesnikov scored on a net with a goalie in it. Never thought I'd see it. No joy greater than hearing a Let's Go Red Wings chant in Chicago, followed by salty boos in the wake of a Raymond hat trick. Keep up the good work, boys.
We haven't even pointed out the fact that Lucas Raymond is currently outscoring Alexis Lafreniere, Tim Stützle, and Quentin Byfield, I think combined.
That's food for the soul. Okay, Eric Sinkowski, Matthew Tangsred, Al Robbins, Soak It Insider 69, C-Nods, Brendan M, Mike Caviani, Miss Days, Nick Geyer, Release the Security Footage, Evan, Michael, and Come In, Seider. I tried with a pause there. I know we have comments here a lot to do with Lucas Raymond, but we have to wrap this episode up. I love when exciting episodes means everyone wants to get in on the conversation. It means it was a good game. For now, we want to thank all of you for tuning in, for joining in on the Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider hype, the Red Wings hype, the Larkin Bertuzzi, the Nedeljkovic hype. This has been a blast, and hopefully Wednesday's game will give us more to talk about on that front. So Wednesday night game, Thursday night podcast this week. In the meantime, we're going to spend the next 4 days soaking in Evan's hot tub, I assume.
I will be. You will not.
What? I think our invite got lost in the messenger chat. Can you just resend it?
Yeah, we'll
Evan,
make sure that
I'm on vacation this week. I have all
that is
the
100%
time in the world.
Perfect week for it to be raining the entire time.
That does not bother me one bit.
I've been buying moisture-proof podcast equipment and cords so we can do the hot tub stream.
That'll be perfect for me.
I have a waterproof tent that I can set up in your backyard.
Oh, that's why I'm not telling you my address.
I'd like to thank all of our listeners, our name-level Patreon supporters, Arjun Shankar, Yves Bartels on behalf of the Sarah Grand Foundation, Kyle Karagitz, Nick Perks, Taylor Tagel, Matthew M. Rice, and Pizza, Brandon M., Carl Brutana Nanalewski, Citizen High Five, CJ Sully, Clayton Van Dyken, Craig Kibble, Derek Enstum, DJ Denton, Give Blood, Fight Probert, Greach, Hana Lee, Herpez Crypto, Hassam Al-Qassem, Jacob Turner, I know you know what that is, Jake Kiefer, Jeremiah Dobo, Justin and the Angry Mob, Kalen Wood, King Tone, Cody Stark, Kyle Hashman, Matt McKay, R.A., Release the security footage, Evan, Ryan Hubbard, Scott Martin, Stacy Lynn, Vaxxed and Waxed for the Squid Games, Zach Spring, Andrew Bohan, Sam Bankson, Adam I Wish I Could Finish Like Ernie, Antonio Gracias, Babe Landeskog, Colorado 14ers, Connor Leighton, Dave W., Evans Bingo Card, Jeremy Brocker, John Evans, Josh Yelton, Kevin McCracken, Quaz, Matt Keeler, Matt S., Max $1 Million, Reed, Revi DeLuca, Shit Nugget, Trevor Pepovar, Zach Handystide, and Zach McCann, a driving range superstar. Thank you all so much. Take care. We'll see you Thursday. Lucas Raymond for Calder.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to check out wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find links to other ways to support the show, such as Patreon, official podcast apparel, and more. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod. And of course, the hosts at Brad Crisco, at Ryan Hanna WWP, and at Hockey Town Evan.